Hello and welcome to this edition of Keeping You Informed. I am your host and humble servant, Commissioner Lynn Ward Gray, representing the wonderful Ward 2 in the city of Battle Creek. Thank you for joining us again today. It's going to be a chock full day of information. We've had some recent changes in our recycling, and so I thought today would be a good day to bring on some experts on the subject to give you all the information that you need. But before we do that, I wanted to make sure I pause for a couple of announcements for some upcoming events to make sure that you are informed and engaged if you can, of course. So the first one is it's our time for recruiting for City of Battle Creek Youth Advisory Board members. So if you're a young person that lives within the City of Battle Creek, ages 14 to 20, and you're interested in representing your constituency here in the City of Battle Creek, in that age group, we would love for you to apply. You can go to the city's website and pull up the application regarding serving on boards and commissions and committees of the City Commission, and make sure you print that out, fill it out, or you can send it electronically through our website, either one, and make sure it gets to the city manager's office by the deadline, which is April 22nd by 5 p.m. in the city manager's office. So if you need more information about that, certainly just contact the city and we can get you more information about that. So, getting to our guest today, we are excited to have, for the first time, Miss Lizzie Paul. Hi, Lizzie.
Hi.
And she is the Environmental Program Coordinator for the City of Battle Creek. We're happy to have you today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad. And we also have Jessica Vanderkolk. She's our Communications Manager. She joins us every time. She co-hosts this with me, and I'm so happy to have her. Couldn't do the work without her. So we're going to dive right into just your initial background, your journey to your current position, and then we'll get into our subject matter.
All right. So yeah, my name is Lizzie Paul. I'm originally from Muskegon, Michigan. So I grew up really no more than like 3 miles away from the lake, which I think is kind of what sparked my love for the environment. I have a background in environmental sustainability. My degree is from Michigan State University, where I also studied sustainable agriculture and food systems. I'm currently a full-time student at Western Michigan University working toward my public administration. So yeah, and I've been with the city for about a year this March.
Well, and here you are on Keeping You Informed. You just dive right in. So we were talking about recycling. We have the term that we use, recycling right. Yes. And so we're going to be talking about recycling right today. And let's start with the changes coming on April 1st. Tell us a little bit about what's happening with the city's recycling and where we're going.
Right. So the City Commission recently approved a contract with Waste Management that will be changing our recycling service to bi-weekly, so every other week instead of the weekly service which residents are used to. This was a really well-informed decision that was made based on several meetings that we held with Waste Management. There's a lot of international things going on with recycling that's kind of changing the game for every community that offers recycling. Mm-hmm. So I think Battle Creek is actually really lucky to have come to this decision to just switch to a bi-weekly service. Other communities have had to actually cut their programs entirely or stop accepting certain commodities in the stream, so they'll cut out plastics or glass or something like that. So I think what we decided on is really the best option we have to keep rates accessible for every resident and keep the service going.
And when you talk about those other forces that kind of led us down this, can you explain that a little bit? Because a lot of people think it's weird, we're personally doing it somehow. Mm-hmm. So I think having the full context really helps people understand why.
So basically, it's a lot of information, but the best way I can explain it is that about a third of America's waste was being sent to China. So China was taking in all of this waste from America and several other countries as well. And a lot of that waste, a lot of that recyclable material they were receiving actually ended up being trash or contaminated, like we say. So because of that, China kind of, put down their fists and they said, we're not going to accept any more trash. They're basically turning into the world's wasteland. So they set their guidelines for contamination levels to, I think it's 0.5%, which is nearly impossible to get. Most of the material recovery facilities that we have here in America, which is where the materials processed before it's shipped out, those recovery facilities are set to keep contamination level at like 2 to 3%. So it's caused a lot of stir in the recycling community, as you can imagine, because we don't have the technology or equipment available right now to keep those contamination levels low enough for China to continue buying. So. Yeah, that's known as the national sword policy that China's implemented. Yeah, so when you hear people talk about that, or the green fence policy, people will call it that as well. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Deep. Who knew that goes on?
Right, lots of stuff going on.
So, we've heard from some neighbors that they fill their recycling carts every week, and we wanted to kind of put it out there. What can people do if they need to, deal with their recycling on a more weekly basis than a bi-weekly basis? So
residents that do fill their bins weekly, they will have the option to purchase an additional bin through Waste Management. I believe the bins start at $3.25. If that's not an option for them, they have the drop-off center, which is located at 4547 Wayne Road in Springfield. That's something I use that every week because my apartment complex doesn't offer recycling, so I use that all the time, and it's super convenient. It's free. There's never a line to get in or anything like that. So I'm thinking that more and more residents will be using that. And another thing, I think that we've been pushing a narrative, Michigan has been pushing a narrative to increase recycling rates, which is definitely a good thing, but I think with the contamination problem we're having, I think we're going to begin taking a step back from increasing the rates and focus more on a quality over quantity narrative. So I'm hoping that residents, now that they won't be having as frequent pickups, they'll be more mindful about what they're putting in their bins.
And when they are bringing those items to that location, what should they keep in mind? How should they bring them to you?
Sure. So it's always important to keep your items loose. So what I mean when I say that is a lot of people will bag their recyclables in like a plastic garbage bag. And that, first of all, plastic garbage bags or plastic bags in general should never be put in your curbside recycling. You can bring those to places like Meijer or other grocery stores that will have kiosks that you can drop them off at. But curbside recycling, the equipment won't be able to handle those plastic bags. So number one is to keep your items loose. And then it's also important to keep in mind that once you get to the drop-off center, you do have to separate your items. So curbside, it's all commingled in one bin, but at the drop-off center, there's separate dumpsters for each item. So people will have to, separate their cardboard from their glass and et cetera.
They have to take the time.
Right.
And besides the what are all the recycling centers? So it was the...
So the one, Waste Management is the one at 4547 Wayne Road. Yep, and that's in Springfield. There's also, Calhoun County has several drop-off centers. There's the Marshall and Albion drop-off centers, and they accept different materials. So the Waste Management one will accept all of your paper, cardboard, aluminum, glass, plastics. But then the Marshall and Albion centers, they also offer some specialty recycling, so like styrofoam, that's really difficult to recycle, but they accept it there. Yeah, so the city will do events every couple months where people can bring their styrofoam, but if that's not available, if you have more than you need to get rid of it quicker than those events are coming up, so you can bring it to the drop-off center.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And the hours where they're located and all that kind of stuff, I know Jessica's going to get to where we find all this information on the website, so I'm not going to have you say it all because it's a lot of information and phone numbers and addresses to kind of keep up with. But let's talk about Recycling Right. I love the title.
Yeah.
Some people recycle more than they throw away, but we do have some contamination. Talk a little bit about what that means and what do you talk about when you say contamination?
So the way I see it, I like to break contamination down into 3 different levels. I think the first level is the wishful recyclers, and those are the well-intentioned people but poorly informed. So those are people who see something like a metal coat hanger and think, oh, this is, this should be, somebody's going to recycle this down the road. So they'll put it in their bin. But that actually is considered a contaminant because it's actually not recyclable curbside. So that's the first type of contamination I think of. The second one is like half recycling, I like to think of it as. So those are people who know what they're doing, but they're preparing the product. They're preparing it incorrectly. So I always use a spaghetti sauce jar. If you're done with your marinara sauce, you have to rinse that out and let it dry and then put it in your bin. Because if you put it in and there's still food residue, that can contaminate the other materials in your bin, therefore, making them invaluable.
Very good. I mean,
Yes.
this conversation had originally come up when our city manager was talking about her pizza box.
Oh, okay.
And,
Yeah, that's a big one.
Thinking that, yeah, hey, it's cardboard, I can put it in the
Right.
recycling bin. Talk about why that's not really
Sure.
what you should be doing.
Yeah, so we get a lot of questions about pizza boxes, and that's a really difficult one to regulate, because if you know what you're doing with your pizza box, some people can recycle that properly, but for the most part, we try to encourage people to just put that in the trash to, not even risk contamination. But if you do have a pizza box and any part of it is soiled with oil or grease or cheese, anything like that, that's considered contamination. If you have a pizza box that's somehow miraculously completely dry, you can put that in your recycling, but that rarely happens. So we try to encourage residents, if you're not 100% positive it can be thrown in recycling, then just put it in the trash.
And that's right.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yes.
So thinking about some of those things that we know for sure we cannot recycle.
Right.
What are some of those things that
For sure that you can't recycle. So a lot of the big contaminants we see in Battle Creek are the plastic bags. So people who like to bundle up their recyclable items, there's a whole reason behind it, but basically you should just keep your items loose. And then there's the pizza boxes. We encourage people not to do that. Any type of specialty item, like electronics, styrofoam. So it's important to note that pretty much every material in the world can be recycled, but not curbside. So there's a difference between your curbside recycling and then when the city offers events like the electronics recycling. So keep any type of electronics out of your recycling bin, curbside. Hold on to those until the events, or bring it to Best Buy will accept some of them. And there's a lot of resources online that can help find an outlet for those.
Well, speaking of the events, one of the probably largest is the Recycle-Rama that comes up. Tell us when that's going to be.
Sure.
And kind of why that's so special.
Yeah.
As far as some of the things that are offered here in the city.
Yeah, so Recycle-Rama will be on April 6th from 9 a.m. to 1, and it'll be held at Bailey Park. The reason that's such a big event is because we offer specialty recycling. So we offer household hazardous waste disposal. So that's anything like your medical, any type of hazardous material, any cleaning products, things like that. You can get rid of those at Recycle-Rama. It's completely free for Calhoun County residents. And then we also offer electronics recycling and just a lot of different types of specialty items can be disposed of at these events. So,
and I mean, I've been before. It's choreographed, it seems like, to get you through all the different stations and the different locations where you can drop things off. But wonderful. So hopefully residents will use this month of March to kind of set their items aside and get ready for Recycle-Rama and tell other people about it. And again, we will point out on our website where you can go and get this information, what you can recycle, what take to Recycle-Rama, what you can't. And just all your options around recycling. This is getting good. Okay, so what is the best process for neighbors to follow who had their trash or recycling missed? Now that has happened.
Yes.
Or have broken containers. I know with this high wind, a lot of them were blowing down the street, unfortunately. Or they have questions. What should they do?
So, the best thing you can do to ensure that Waste Management is getting all the information they need is to contact Waste Management directly. They have a customer service phone number, 866-797-9018, and you can explain what's going on there, and you can report any missed pickups. People will also call the city sometimes, and that's okay too. We're trying to encourage residents to reach out to Waste Management more, so it's more of a streamlined process for Waste Management and for the resident. Missed pickups are typically taken care of. Once they're reported, Waste Management will usually take care of it within 24 hours. About the bins, so residents have the option to rent a trash bin through Waste Management or to purchase their own. And when residents purchase their own, if those are damaged in any way by Waste Management trucks or drivers, Waste Management is actually not responsible for replacing them. So if a resident does rent a bin through Waste Management and anything happens to it, Waste Management will get out there, I think within 24 hours as well, and replace it and fix it and, get them good to go. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got a whole lot of people trying to probably wondering where they're going for all this information. So Jessica, in case we've missed something, I know you take notes throughout the interview. Please bring us up to date on those items and then tell us where we can go for some of this information.
Let's see. So most of the information that people need when they're looking for information on trash or recycling are on a couple of different websites. And so the cities is one of those, and we have a shortcut to it. It's battlecreekmi.gov/recycling. And that is, that will get you directly to where we keep our information about curbside. So you'll see a picture of our cart. And we are currently working on updating this even more with the links people need. And under resources, you'll see that first link is a special website that Waste Management created a couple years ago just for the city of Battle Creek. So when you go to that, you can find things like our holiday schedule, when Waste Management is closed and delayed. You'll see our service schedule, which once the recycling change goes into effect, will change to biweekly service. There is a form on this website to report a missed pickup and other information about placing your containers by 6 o'clock in the morning on your day, and links back to the city's website and links to some of Waste Management's other resources about trash and recycling.
You mentioned the time you're supposed to place it.
Yes.
Just remind folks when they're supposed to pick it back up from their curbside.
We do have an ordinance about putting. I don't know it.
So that information will be on our website.
We will. Yes, we will put that information on the website too. I cannot quote the time off the top of my head, but we do have an ordinance in place that informs people how early they can put their bins out and by what time after pickup they should bring them back in.
Bring them back in.
That way they're, in the case of weather especially, we don't have issues like blowing. Right. Definitely keep the Waste Management customer service number handy. And I'll say it again, it's 866-979. No, I'm sorry, let me back up. It's 866-797-9018. And I want to give a tip for people calling that number, because as of right now, when you call it, the first thing that the recording will do is ask for an account number. People who live in the city of Battle Creek don't have a separate account number. It's since the city holds the contract with Waste Management, it's all one account.
That's good to know.
So if you just stay on the line for a couple of beats, it will then go to the dialogue to say, if you're calling about residential, press one number. And so then people can do that and then go on to speak to somebody with their question. We also post a lot on the city's Facebook page and our Nextdoor account with information and updates related to trash service, recycling, yard waste, which will be starting at the end of this month. And then the various collection events that we have with Calhoun County, which will be going on throughout the summer and fall. So we hope that everyone can follow along there. We put some of it in our newsletter that goes out in the water bills every other month. So there are a lot of places to see this information. Another website that is linked from the city's website that people should bookmark is CalhounCountyRecycling.com. They always keep the list of events. You can see the guide for what the recycling centers will take, and lots of other information, updates with the hours and everything, along with on our website too. So there are a lot of good online resources for people to have bookmarked.
That's awesome, and it's good that we're including some of these guidelines directly to the residents. For those who aren't on the website or on social media, they can still get the information and know, where to go and how to recycle.
Absolutely.
How to recycle right. One of the other things that I wanted to make sure we mention are some of our recycling programs for batteries, for light bulbs. So if you can talk a little bit about those as well.
Sure. So the City of Battle Creek and Waste Management offer a mail-in program for fluorescent light bulbs and for household batteries. So you can go down to the DPW, which is at 150 South Kendall Street, and you just go up to the front window and you ask for a box for either the batteries or light bulbs, and then you get a box, you get a label, and you fill up the box with your batteries or light bulbs and you mail it in. and they'll recycle it for you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And then you can just constantly go and pick up a new one as you turn one in.
Right, yep, we don't
Or
have
mail
like a limit on it right now, so
Okay.
I'm not sure if we'll be setting one of those in the future. We have plenty of boxes right now, so yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this before we started taping, but I wanted to just solve the mystery. Do we leave the lid on or don't we leave the lid on like milk cartons and things like that?
Okay, so I've heard it a couple different ways. I think in the past, people were really encouraged to keep the lids on their recycle or their water bottles. I've heard stories about water bottles that are empty with the lids on getting crushed in recycling, and that pressure can cause injury to workers sometimes if the cap pops off. So I've really heard it a couple different ways, and I can't be confident in giving you like a straight up answer to that. But I will say that if you do want to keep the lid on, crush the bottle, get all of the air out of it first, and then put the lid back on.
And because what you were saying is the most important thing is that it's dry and clean.
Right, and that goes that goes for everything, not just the water bottles. Anything that was
Yeah.
holding food or any type of liquid, you need to make sure that's rinsed out as best as you can get it, and also make sure it's dry, because any of that wetness can soil the cardboard or any other material,
Yes.
therefore contaminating it.
Well, this has been informative. We are now going to recycle right. And, when this change was made, we were promising residents that we would try and get the information out there in several different ways. Keeping you informed was one of them. So thank you so much, Lizzie.
Thank you.
Jessica. And thank you for listening and tuning in with us once again. We hope you join us for next month for another informative topic. That's it for now. See you later on Keeping You Informed. Take care. Bye-bye.